Morning, educators, honorable opposition, and everyone present. Today, this House stands firmly on the proposition side of the motion in areas prone to disasters. This House believes that the state should prioritize disaster mitigation over relocation. Let us begin by clarifying our terms. Disaster mitigation refers to actions taken to reduce the risk and impact of disasters. This includes building stronger infrastructure, improving early warning systems, managing the environment, and educating communities on how to respond to emergencies. On the other hand, relocation means moving people away from high risk areas to new and safer locations. The position of this House is clear. The government should focus first on making existing communities safer rather than forcing people to leave their homes. First, mitigation protects more people in a fair and practical way. This House argues that disaster mitigation allows governments to protect large populations without disrupting their lives. Relocation may seem like a direct solution, but in reality, it is extremely difficult to carry out. It requires time, planning, and large amounts of money. More importantly, people are not just moving houses, they are leaving behind their livelihoods, families, and communities. For example, in flood prone areas, governments can build better drainage systems, dams, and flood barriers. They can also restore forests and improve their water management. These measures reduce the risk for entire communities at once without forcing anyone to move. Furthermore, many people may refuse relocation because of emotional attachment to their homes or because they do not trust the new location. This, make, this makes relocation slow and often ineffective. Therefore, mitigation is more practical and fair because it protects people where they are instead of forcing them into uncertain situations. Second, relocation creates serious social and economic problems. This house believes that when people are relocated, they often lose access to jobs, educations, and social networks. This can lead to unemployment, poverty, and long term instability. People may also experience stress, anxiety, and loss of identity because they are separated from their communities. For example, who are moved away from their land may lose their main source of income. Similarly, fishermen who rely on the sea cannot continue their work if they are relocated inland. Even if the government provides new housing, it does not replace the economic opportunities they had before. In addition, relocated communities often face poor living conditions, lack of infrastructure, and limited access to services. This can make their quality of life worse than before. And this clearly shows that relocation is not just a safety solution, it can create deeper social and economic issues. Mitigation avoids these problems by allowing people to maintain their way of life while still improving safety. Third, mitigation builds long term resilience. House recognizes that disasters are a part of reality, especially when climate change increases their frequency and intensity. Instead of trying to avoid all risk by moving people away, communities should be helped adapt and become stronger. Mitigation helps people understand risk and respond effectively. It includes disaster education, emergency planning, and community training. These efforts ensure that when disasters occur, people are prepared and is able to act quickly. For example, in earthquake prone areas, buildings can be designed to withstand shaking, and communities can practice evacuation drills regularly. As a result, even if an earthquake does happen, the damage and loss of life can be significantly reduced. Over time, these measures create a culture of preparedness, communities become more confident and capable of handling disasters. Thus, mitigation is not just about reducing risk today, but also about building stronger and more resilient societies for the future. Fourth, mitigation is more cost effective in the long run. This House argues that relocation requires huge financial resources. Governments must provide land, housing, infrastructure, and basic services in new location. In many cases, this process takes years and does not guarantee success. On the other hand, mitigation may also improve investment, but it reduces future losses. by preventing damage. Governments focus less on emergency response, rebuilding, and recovery. For example, building a strong seawall or improving drainage systems may be expensive at first. However, these investments can prevent repeated damage from floods or storms, saving money over time. Additionally, when communities remain stable and economically active, they continue to contribute to the economy. This further supports long term development. Therefore, mitigation is a smarter and more sustainable use of resources. Now, let us respond to the likely argument from the opposition. The opposition may argue that relocation is the safest option because it removes people completely from danger. However, this argument is too simplistic. In reality, not all risk can be avoided by relocation. Some disasters, such as earthquakes or climate related events, can affect wide areas. There is no guarantee that the new location will always be safe. Moreover, relocation does not address the root problem. It only moves people away from it. Without proper planning and resources, relocated communities may face new risks and challenges. In contrast, mitigation directly reduces the danger and prepares people for different situations. It is more flexible, adaptable, and realistic. In conclusion, this House strongly supports this motion. Disaster mitigation should be prioritized over relocation because it protects more people without disrupting their lives, avoids serious social and economic problems, builds long term resilience, and is more cost effective. This House is not saying that relocation should never happen. In extreme cases where areas are completely uninhabitable, relocation may be necessary. However, it should not be the first or main solution. The government's priority should always be to make communities safer, stronger, and more prepared where they already are. Thank you.